Okay.
As promised, we have Surindar with us today. And where are you? Darwin?
Yes, I just arrived in Darwin around midday today.
Okay. So tell us who you are and why you're doing this for a start.
I'm a research scientist. I'm retired now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And during the research that I was engaged in, was the very early stages of MND research. Some special tools were just coming out, like the transgenic mouse and so on. And I was one of the first back in the late 90s, actually, that I brought this animal to Australia.
Wow.
And as part of research and as part of a research team leader, I also thought it was very important for my students, whether they're doing honors or masters or PhD. I said to them, we are going to work on MND, but in order for you to appreciate what you're doing, you need to meet some people who live with MND.
Bingo.
Meet the people in the association who look after people with MND. Because we scientists sometimes can live in an ivory tower. And the only thing that we like to see is the research grants come in.
Yes.
And we keep our eyes focused on this, alphabet soup of research, all the DNA and the genes and all that sort of stuff. So I was very fortunate because I became associated with the MND Association of Victoria.
Yep.
And I said to them, look, how can we be involved? And they said, look, we have a volunteer program. Okay, if you and your students would like to volunteer, we'll team you up with someone with MND. You can go and visit them, talk to them. And that is where my journey, if you like, is actually dedicated to Jackie and Cameron. You'll see those names appear in my videos. Jackie and Cameron, especially Cameron, are people that I actually met, I shed tears with, because they were going through a phase, and Cameron, I think, was in his mid-40s. He had two young, beautiful children. And we sat and talked, and I think because I was a stranger, he opened himself up to it. So it made a very strong impact, so much so that a few of my students, after the first person they met with MND, they said, look, we can't do this anymore because emotionally it can be very, very challenging.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's how my research and the association with MND came about. So, but the big lab is something that I've been thinking about for many, many years. I came to Australia as a teenager about 55 years ago. And I went to school here, I went to uni and all that sort of stuff. So I've been thinking about it for some time. And then a few months ago, I came across, I was sleeping one day or couldn't sleep. And I thought, why not I link it with some mission or something that is worthwhile? And then I said, hang on a minute. I've been associated with MND for a long time. And, some of my graduates, in fact, Professor Bradley Turner is one of the top researchers in, he graduated his PhD with me. He's in Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, let's
we know
put
Brad.
the two. Yeah, so we decided to put those two things together. And I approached MND and they said, well, they probably said very silently, this is a crazy idea, but if you want to do it, go and do it. So that's how the idea was born. And I was doing research on the big lab, and often they relate to the number one highways, the Highway 1 right across Australia. I thought, well, I'm not really geared to go off-road. So I decided that I'll stick to the main highways, and that's what I've done. I left Melbourne, went through all along the east coast to Cairns, and cut across to Norseman, down to Mount Isa, across to Katherine, now in Darwin. So not quite halfway there, yeah, but nearly there.
So are you raising awareness of MND on the way around, or?
As much as I can. I've got a WhatsApp group of followers.
Yep.
And this is, largely friends of mine, and I send videos to them. And each video mentions MND, especially towards the end, about donations and so on. And now and then I put some stuff about MND. But during the travels, it is, I would like to talk to people about MND, but I think requires a little bit more organization. And I think in this world of social media, I think it's far more powerful. Like what you're doing today is going to, amplify the message quite a bit. And also, I heard from Michaela from MND Victoria, and she asked me, Surinder, can you, now that you're about close to halfway, we've been following your journey, we would like to put in the newsletter and things like that. So she's asked me to write a small blurb.
Brilliant.
But Jen, the other thing I would like to do is, during the journey, I can raise a certain amount of awareness, raise a certain amount of funds. But when I complete the journey, I hope it's a worthwhile story to tell, small groups of people, tell them about this story and this journey that I've undertaken, and hopefully can continue some of the awareness and the fundraising.
That's brilliant. Where are you going to?
Okay, from here, I have to go back to Catherine. And from there, I cut across to Kununurra.
Wow.
And then across to Fitzroy Crossing, all the way Port Hedlands, Broome, down to Perth, all the way down to Margaret River, Esperance, and I cut across to Norseman, the Nullarbor, Nullarbor across to Port Augusta, Adelaide, then down South Warrnambool and back to Melbourne. So I've got at least another 6 weeks, I think, ahead of me.
And you do... Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I'm not rushing it. Generally, I try to keep my driving to about 6-7 hours, leaving around 6 or 7 in the morning, arriving at the destination around 2 o'clock, not too tired, rest for the rest of the day, and then pick up again the following day. But it is challenging. It's challenging because, I'm 71 years old.
Well, you're not bad for 71, I've got to say.
So the old body is not as strong as it used to be. I can't lift heavy things, so I have to repackage my stuff that I put in the car to do things like that. So anyway.
Scientist brain. So you're doing this alone? No one's coming with?
This is a solo trip, although at some stage, friends have offered to accompany me. But to me, it's also a part of my soul-searching kind of spiritual journey because, Australia has been, a wonderful home for me. I've been here 55 years. It's probably it is the best place in the world to live, very peaceful. And so it is a way of encompassing Australia as well. Travel around Australia, take everything in as a way of saying thank you to Australia, for giving me a beautiful home, beautiful place for my family, my children, and now my 7 grandchildren.
Oh. So
it's all part of a legacy kind of thing,
It's it's almost like a pilgrimage, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. You don't appreciate Australia until you think about what's happening around the world. Yeah.
We're exceedingly lucky.
Yeah.
Now, a little fairy told me that you had a lot to do with the zebrafish as well.
Yes. One of the things to progress motor neuron disease research, we can't experiment on humans. Okay, that's a given. I mean, we can't. So the closest we can come to is either in a petri dish, in a glass dish, growing cells, which is far from a human, or working on animals, which are probably have a lot more common in humans. So for the last 15 years or so, genetic manipulations have allowed us to produce models of MND disease in animals. And one of the first genes that were discovered was the SOD1 mutation. So when I started research, that was just coming into vogue. And what we did was we managed to bring in the SOD1 mouse, transgenic mouse. But mice actually still you have to wait 3 months, 4 months to see what any effects are. Yep. Zebrafish turn over very rapidly, and you can screen a lot of potential drugs because zebrafish live for a very short time, and you can house thousands of them in a small room, very few can't. So we were one of the first to try and to genetically produce a model in that animal. And I teamed up with some people at Cambridge, but at that point, my career took a bit of a turn. I decided to do more medical education side of things. and an opportunity came out to work in Western Samoa. They had just opened a new medical school there. And I thought, I had a lot of experience in medical education at Monash University. And I was headhunted, and, they waved the checkbook at me. And I said, well, I can earn double the amount. And at that stage, the research also was heading towards a direction that I probably found a little bit uncomfortable. A lot of the biotech companies were coming in and throwing money at us just to test drugs. And I thought, it's not the way I would like to spend my time.
So in the 10 years that you were researching MND,
yeah,
there were changes in that, weren't there? I mean, it's quite significant.
Yeah. Look, as scientists go, and I think Bradley Turner, one of my graduate students, he's very fortunate because when I left, funding for MND was still very restricted.
Yeah.
But then Neil Danaher came along.
Yeah.
And Neil Danaher did a huge amount of publicity.
Yeah.
And then the ice bucket challenge and things like that. So funding is a lot more. But I would say I probably finished doing MND research probably about 15 years ago, maybe. And since then, a lot of activity is being carried out, but still there's nothing in the horizon.
I know.
When we used to do research, the university used to beg us, have you found anything? Have you found anything? We need to call the newspaper and tell them all.
Get some more money.
Yeah. So and then and then the headlines would be hope for MND. So I used to get letters from all around the world. Whenever we had something that kind of worked in the mouse, they said, look, we are happy to volunteer, but unfortunately you can't do that.
It's something that annoys me and a lot of my friends with MNDs that, it can be a phase 1 trial and yet it's splashed all over the media and it gives people hope, and it's very, very cruel,
Yeah. And people do not realize that phase 1, 2, and 3 trials nowadays cost $500-400 million. And now that sort of money, the only people who have that money are pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There are lots of potential candidates, but to get to phase 3, in the days I was doing research, Rilutech was the only one, Riluzole, they call it, was the only drug available. Even that, it extended life maybe by a few months.
3 months, yeah.
But, and then the quality of life issue, okay, you live for 3 months longer, but is your quality of life any better? So exactly. I think, just like the other neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and motor neuron disease, I always felt what we had to do was to catch it early on.
Yeah.
And others have biomarkers so that, we know 10 years before the disease onset. Then, because by the time you get the clinical symptoms, it is well established that you've lost probably 70 to 80% of the neurons. And when you have that situation, what exactly are you going to salvage?
Yeah.
So that's another difficult situation. I think for Parkinson's, they've got a few biomarkers now.
Yeah, they do.
Go on.
So to everybody listening out there, it's not hopeless. It's not hopeless because in the last 15 years, there has been, movements made, and we are trying drugs like Tisorphan at the moment, especially around SOD1. So with the fundraising that you're doing,
yes,
is that through your YouTube channels and your WhatsApp, or is it when you go to different towns, or how are you doing that?
Okay, I've got some brochures printed. So whenever I get a chance, I talk to people and I hand out a brochure. A good example of the laundrette experience.
Yeah.
I was in the laundrette and I met this lovely, Tongan Samoan lady, and we got talking. And I said, look, I'm doing this for MND and all that. And I said, look, can I give you some brochures? She said, sure, give me some. I'll post them up in my workplace. That sort of things that I find is very handy. But otherwise, the YouTube channel videos, I think I'm up to 16 now, 16.
Wow,
and
good, okay.
So people who subscribe to the channel, they see a bit of my travel and some other strange thing that happened. Like my car got broken into, a few days ago, but luckily
Oh,
they
no.
only stole the loose cash. They opened it. This thief knew that every car there's a little compartment where people keep loose cash. So
Yeah.
I had a little purse with that, so that was gone, but nothing else was touched. Thank God. But anyway, I always keep my valuables in the hotel room at night. So I share stories as I'm going along, and
It's so
a journey.
important. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think people are interested. I think the group of friends I have on WhatsApp, every morning before I leave, I send a short message, departing Catherine time, heading to Darwin. When I arrive in Darwin, I would put in a message, arrived in Darwin. So they kept in touch. And beyond that, I found that Australia is a vast country, and there's no internet or phone services. So I carry with me a satellite phone.
Oh, good.
Okay, so it's quite handy because just to keep in touch, I've nominated my wife as the, who gets the messages of that I'm okay. So anytime I can send a message, I'm okay when things go very quiet. And so although my wife probably appreciates me being quiet, but anyway. So, there are things like that, and also I came to Darwin, I've got a Vodafone, which the coverage is not good. So
I know, I've got the same. Yeah.
So today in Darwin, I came and switched over to Telstra. So hoping that I can pick up a bit more, signals out in the outback.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. So Surinder and I were meant to have this conversation last Sunday, and we'd gotten ourselves organised, but where were you then? Mount Isa?
Mount Isa, yeah.
Mount Isa, and we just couldn't quite get the internet strength to do. So that's number one, why this podcast is late this week. But yeah, it was a bit difficult. And I was laughing because he said, I'll talk to you after I've been to the laundromat. I love the laundromat. You always meet people in the laundromat in different countries around the world. And, just handing out those brochures, because we need the awareness spread more about what is MND, who has MND. And probably in a lot of those places you go to, it's not a very common ailment.
Yeah. In fact, most people that I kind of just bump into and ask them, have you heard of MND? Probably most of them say no. And then I have to kind of explain it. I don't know whether your listeners realize, but MND has been classified as an orphan status disease. That means no mother and father, orphan. And the reason is because the numbers are relatively small, that pharmaceutical companies, by and large, do not want to get involved with it. So that's why governments have to put money into and encourage, the seeking of a treatment. But, you earlier said, yes, it is not hopeless. The hope really is to continue the research.
Yeah.
That is where the hope is. So we do not give up hope.
No, never give up
We
hope.
hope because all the scientists are there, they're working at it. And science, unfortunately, works in small steps, but hopefully one day, somebody will make a significant discovery or screen, people are screening literally millions of potential drugs now.
Yeah.
And hopefully they might hit one. But if we can get early diagnosis, that would help a lot.
Oh, we all agree with you very much. I've been into Brad's lab at Florey, and just to see the equipment that he has now is quite extraordinary.
Yeah. And with research, often we find that it's the technology that drives things. That, as new technologies come, some time ago, to sequence a human gene would take years and years. Now you can do it in minutes. You can take a buccal swab and you can get a DNA results the next day. So that's all technology. So
yeah, it's quite extraordinary. So are you going out for dinner every night and talking to people on this trip, or?
I try to, but I find that sometimes, a cold call sometimes doesn't work because, whenever I have given talks in the past to MNDs, people come to me because they want to hear about it.
Yeah, of course.
But when people are unprepared, they kind of politely nod their head and and say thank you. But I've been surprised. A few of them I've spoken to. A lot of them actually support my cause as well. They say, "Oh, it's for MND charity. Good, what you're doing. We'll support you."
Oh, that's beautiful.
Hmm.
So, okay. Well,
Can I
will,
just share? Can I
you
just
can-
share one
you
one
can share whatever
anecdote?
you want.
So, one of my friends, I often ask my friends if you can recommend I meet people along the way, and one of them recommended meeting a gentleman here in Darwin. So I rang him yesterday, and he said, "Look, I would love to meet you because I've heard about you, but I'm in the East Timor Sea gap where Santos is putting the gas pipeline."
Yep.
I said, "What are you doing there?" He said, "Well, I'm a merchant mariner or something like that." And he said, "Last week I got a contract for 3 weeks to take a ship out to that place." So anyway, we spoke on the phone. He said, "Look, send me the link. I definitely would like to donate." So somebody sitting on a ship in East Timor somewhere.
Life is incredible now, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah.
Well, this will go out today, so more and more people will hear about you. What is the YouTube channel called?
It's called a big lab for MND.
Okay.
So can I send it to you separately?
Yep,
Or?
send it to me and I will put it on the the
Yeah,
podcast so everyone can link it.
Just to make sure, and I also can send you a QR code. So if you get the QR code, it takes you directly to the MND Victoria.
You're very up to date with the technology.
Oh, I love fiddling with technology. Yeah.
And is your wife having a nice quiet time without you?
Oh, she rings me every day. I ring her every day. But not putting my wife down, but I miss my granddaughter.
How old is
She's
she?
Just 6 years old.
Oh.
And she talks to me every day, and she's wondering what her grandfather's up to.
Yeah, it's very good for them to see this.
Well, I don't know whether I mentioned, but this is a legacy thing because this YouTube now with this social media and cloud storage, what we are talking about can be accessed 10,000 years from now.
It can. I know, it's quite extraordinary, isn't it?
It is
extraordinary.
It is. Very much.
Well, I want to thank you so much for what you're doing, and I think it's a great idea that when you finish the big lab, you come back and then you can talk about it and talk about where you've been and whom you've met and the impact that you've had.
Thank you. That'd be great. Yeah.
But I'd also like to thank you for all the research that you've done and, bringing in the mouse and rat models and the zebrafish. That's a huge thing that you've done for the MND community.
Yeah, things have moved on from there, but still.
Yeah, but still, it's got to start
we built
somewhere.
the basis, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, excellent.
All right. You're an absolute joy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't forget to do your laundromat in Darwin too.
Every week. Every week. Otherwise, I'm in trouble.
I bet you are.
Yeah.
Your wife will know.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Bless.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you so much. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely man.